Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, the Other. And like I've said before, I've pretty much run out of topics to discuss, but another one came to mind. And I was just looking through an old book on the Green Bay Packers, and I saw that in 1968, after the Green Bay Packers won the second Super Bowl, head coach Vince Lombardi, who'd been there for 10 years, a little over 10 years, I think, retired, and his defensive coach Phil Bingston took over as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. He was a native of Rousseau, Minnesota, and played tackle at the University of Minnesota during the 1930s. 1934, he earned All-America honors with the Golden Gophers, working in tandem with a player who went into coaching immortality, quarterback Bud Wilkinson. Kind of interesting. I did not know that Bud Wilkinson was quarterback at the University of Minnesota. Took his first assistant job at the University of Missouri in 1935, but returned to his alma mater as a line coach, staying through the 1939 season. In 1940, he moved to Stanford, served as assistant coach for 12 years, then moved to professional level in 1952 with the San Francisco 49ers. He spent 7 years with the Niners, and before being dismissed with Albert after the 1958 season, Frankie Albert. He served under 3 different coaches: Buck Shaw, Red Strader, Frankie Albert. I guess he was, when they fired Frankie Albert, I guess he was one of the people fired as well. And they pretty much change coaches. They'll fire the whole coaching staff, so the new coach can bring in who he wants to for his assistants. Shortly after, he was one of the first 4 assistants hired in Lombardi's first week with the Packers in February of 1959. He's the only assistant coach to stay the entire 9-year tenure of Lombardi, 1959 to 1967. He worked as defensive coordinator for the Packers. From 1961 to 1967, the Packers captured 5 NFL titles and the first 2 Super Bowls. He replaced Vince Lombardi following the 1967 season. His low-key approach was a sharp contrast to the way Vince Lombardi was. Also, what led to him not being successful as a head coach of the team was aging of key players and translating to mediocrity for the team. Bingston Packers during his tenure were 20, 21, and 1 in his 3 seasons as head coach. After 6-8 record in 1970, he was relieved of his duties, replaced by Missouri head coach Dan Devine for the 1971 season. Devine lasted 4 seasons with the Packers before moving back to collegiate level at the University of Notre Dame following 1974 season. Lombardi's former quarterback Bart Starr became the head coach in 1975. 1985, he was inducted into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. Bingston resurfaced with the San Diego Chargers and New England Patriots, becoming the interim head coach of the Patriots in late 1972. Later, he was named the team's director of pro scouting through the 1974 season. He died after a long illness at age 81 at his home in San Diego on December 18, 1994. So in 1968, the Packers were 6-7-1. 1969, they're 8-6, and 6-8 in 1970. All 3 years, 3rd in the NFC Central. He was 1-4 when he took over as head coach of the Patriots, 5th in the AFC East. So that's what I was able to find out on Phil Bingston, and kind of interesting because I had never really known who had taken over as head coach. I remember Dan Devine being there, but I didn't know if Dan Devine automatically became the head coach after Vince Lombardi left, or who did. I never really noticed until I saw this in the book. And a little history on Phil Bingston, and I probably will be discussing more football related stuff, especially with football season getting started, which I'm going to start seeing some preseason games soon and a regular season. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope to see the Ravens in the Super Bowl this year. They got to figure out a way to beat the Chiefs, though, if they want to get in the Super Bowl. They've just got to figure it out. I get tired of hearing the excuse that, well, Ravens are a good team, but when they have to play the Chiefs, that they're not going to win. Well, they're going to have to figure out a way to win. I remember the last time the Ravens won the Super Bowl. They beat three teams that I think were better football teams than them. They had to go into Denver, which they had a lot of problems with, and win that one in overtime. Then they had to go into New England and beat the Patriots and Tom Brady's team. And then they had to beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. It was also a very explosive football team. It's probably a better team than the Ravens, but the Ravens did it. And I think that the fact that it was Ray Lewis's last year, and maybe that helped their momentum and getting all the way to the Super Bowl title and winning the Super Bowl. Anyway, hopefully our Ravens will be in the Super Bowl this year. And that being said, looking for ideas on shows to do in the future. My show is about preserving history, especially obscure aspects of history. And like I said before, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.